probably for the past month or so, um, I've had a really hard time rolling around in my wheelchair. Uh, I knew there was something stuck in those little wheels up front of the wheelchair. They're called the casters. Um, I think it was in the. I didn't know if it was in the right side or the left side of left wheel or the right wheel. The front, the front little wheels. And what I did was I transferred to the bed, and then, well, actually, I had to look around a little bit to find out if find the tool that I needed. Um, I, anyway, it took a little bit of time, maybe 15 minutes or something like that, to look through drawers and find the tool that I needed to, because it's a hex wrench. That's what it's called, I think. And the measurement was, um, I think, was it 3/16? I'm not quite sure. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I show it here in the middle of this video. The I found out it was the left caster that was jammed up. Um, it had a bunch of hair in it. After after just rolling through just daily life of just rolling through stuff, and also with the dog hairs, also and human hairs too, all that stuff gets gunked up in the wheelchair tires pretty bad, especially in those little caster wheels up front. So pushing my wheelchair, it was almost like everywhere I went was like pushing uphill up a very, very steep embankment, just going anywhere. It was a major struggle. I don't know. It's kind of like pushing through mud, or if you're in a wheelchair, then pushing through gravel is very, very difficult, especially if it's deep, thick gravel or sand. So that's what it was like whenever I had my tire, whenever I had all that hair stuck in that caster. But so I spent, I would say, probably about an hour, trying to get that gunk out of there, gunk out of that tire. The gunk is in between the tire, was in between the tire and the forks of the caster, and there was quite a bit. I think I show that to you here, and I'm just showing you here the rings that go in between the tire and the fork. They're called washers, and the central thing that I'm holding is you screw it on, and actually there's a central piece that has it can be screwed on either side of the central piece. So the other side of that central piece was kind of locked up. So whenever I tried to take that other side off of the axle, then they wouldn't come off, no matter how much I used different tools to try and take it off. I guess I could have used, maybe if I would have used maybe a wrench or something like that, it might have been able to get it off, but I couldn't get it off. So anyway, the screw was screwed into the axle, and that was all held on to one piece. So I ran the screw through the hole, through the fork hole, actually, and then what I did was I had one of the washers, and the axle kind of held up the washer a little bit. I had the axle go through just enough so that the washer could hang on the axle, and that way it would also give me enough space to slide my tire, that little caster tire, in there. And then whenever I slid that little caster tire in there, then I was able to, with a little bit of wiggling around, then I was able to push the axle through all the way, through the center of the tire, and the axle was actually starting to come out the other side of the tire. But I needed the axle that was coming out the other side of the tire to go through another washer before going through the fork of the wheelchair. So that was a hard, very, very hard part. That took quite a while. That was probably the most time-taking of the whole repair experiment. It probably took about 45 minutes or something like that. But I found, and what was really helpful was to run you see the tool I'm holding there, the hex wrench tool there. The best thing that I found is to run that hex wrench through the hole from the fork into the hole of the tire, in the middle of the tire, and then run that tool through the whole thing. Actually, it runs through the middle of the axle casing, and so that way, if I push the other end of the screw that's hooked onto the axle, if I push the other end of that screw really tight up against that fork, then that hole will be snug, and actually the axle will be pretty snug, so it won't really go anywhere. So if I do get that washer on there, and I have the washer around the axle, then then one step further I can do is to push that axle all the way through and hold it tight so that my tire is really, really tight, so that I can screw on the final screw into the hole of the axle and get it pretty tight. You don't want to have it too tight though, because if you have it too tight, then the caster wheel doesn't turn very, very smoothly at all. So you kind of have to loosen that caster tire, that caster screw just a little